For decades, McAfee has been one of the most recognizable names in antivirus software, but it's also one of the most hated. Millions of people never chose to install McAfee. It arrived pre-installed on their PCs, constantly interrupted them with prompts to renew and urgent messages claiming that their protection was about to disappear. Even uninstalling it could feel like a battle. Over time, McAfee became less associated with security and more associated with bloatware and scammy subscriptions. Now, after years of corporate buyouts, mounting debt, and furious customers, McAfee's antivirus empire may finally be dying. But how did McAfee go from one of the most trustworthy names in software to one of the most hated? And has private equity ruined the company for good? Let's get right into it. McAfee Associates was founded in 1987 by John McAfee. This was when the commercial antivirus industry was just beginning, and McAfee had a unique growth tactic. Instead of focusing on flashy marketing or a gigantic sales team, McAfee focused on software distribution. McAfee allowed individual users to download and distribute the software for free, while requiring corporations to purchase licenses. Not only did users love getting a great product for free, but companies were happy to pay for protection from hackers and computer viruses. McAfee's shareware model accomplished several things at once. First, users spread the software organically through word-of-mouth recommendations. Then, this strong brand recognition helped boost perceived value and allowed the company to sign more enterprise contracts. Because of its generous free tier and effective product, McAfee grew a strong reputation as a reliable and trustworthy company. But soon, this reputation would be destroyed. In the late 90s and early 2000s, McAfee found its next growth engine: PCs. PC sales exploded during the dot-com boom, and McAfee wanted to be the default antivirus software on these new computers. So, the company signed contracts with manufacturers like Dell, HP, and Lenovo to have McAfee pre-installed on their computers. These manufacturers included McAfee free trials with new PCs, typically lasting between 30 and 90 days. McAfee got a royalty for every computer sold with a free trial, and some manufacturers paid extra for longer subscription periods. After the free trial ended, McAfee's software could continue to prompt the user to pay for a subscription. Even if McAfee was a completely perfect product, many users found this sales tactic invasive and extremely annoying. Many PC buyers complained that they never asked for the software on their devices. But that was exactly McAfee's plan. By having their software pre-installed on PCs, McAfee could lock users in before they had a chance to research other antivirus products. People who had just purchased a computer were exceptionally receptive to buying antivirus software, since they didn't want their expensive new machine to be destroyed by a hacker. Since McAfee was the first thing that they saw on their screen, many customers decided to subscribe. Not only did McAfee earn a royalty from every computer sold with a free trial, the PC manufacturer essentially subsidized McAfee's customer acquisition. By this time, founder John McAfee had left the company several years prior. Still, executives continued to turn McAfee into one of the world's leading antivirus brands. PCs pre-installed with McAfee software now constantly prompted users, telling them that their free trial was almost over and that their PC would be unprotected from bad actors. Every new computer essentially came with a built-in McAfee sales funnel. These expiration warnings and constant renewal prompts were extremely frustrating for many users. Even worse, people complained that McAfee software was nearly impossible to remove from their devices. This software was pre-installed, so there was no easy way to opt out from having it on your device. If the user wanted to remove McAfee, they had to go through a convoluted process to uninstall the software. As McAfee continued to grow as a publicly traded company, they shifted away from selling software licenses and pushed for annual subscriptions. Instead of being a product that users bought once, McAfee's antivirus software became something that could expire and leave computers vulnerable. This created a strong psychological hook. A user who was already paying for McAfee was likely to keep paying. They didn't want to consciously choose to cancel the subscription and risk their PC becoming unsafe. But McAfee's obsession with distribution soon crossed the line. The SEC accused McAfee of overstating revenue by $622 million between 1998 and 2000. The company agreed to pay a $50 million fine in 2006 without admitting or denying the allegations. By 2010, McAfee had built a powerful global brand and one of the software industry's strongest renewal funnels. But soon, this attracted a buyer who thought that they could grow McAfee even larger. In 2010, Intel agreed to acquire McAfee for almost $8 billion. This was Intel's largest ever acquisition at the time, and they had big plans. Intel thought that most PC manufacturers were too focused on performance and connectivity, and were ignoring security as a source of revenue. In theory, Intel's plan was great. McAfee software would identify security threats, and Intel could build stronger protection into their hardware. Then, Intel and McAfee could expand beyond PCs into phones, connected devices, and industrial equipment. This came at a time when Intel was searching hard for growth opportunities outside of its main PC chip business. McAfee was an attractive target due to its software subscription business and assumed future growth with mobile devices. But this dream deal quickly turned into a nightmare. Intel was used to dealing with hardware development cycles that took years, while McAfee needed constant upgrades and fast-paced sales tactics. New viruses emerged continuously, and McAfee needed around-the-clock attention to stay competitive. McAfee software was also already bundled with Intel PCs before the acquisition, so there was no further growth to be had there. Many analysts were skeptical from the beginning, claiming that there was very little synergy between Intel and McAfee. Intel even tried to rebrand McAfee to Intel Security, despite the fact that McAfee's brand was one of its strongest selling points. Intel's rebrand was so unpopular that even John McAfee, who had left the company almost 2 decades earlier, released a bizarre parody showing viewers how to uninstall the software bearing his name. By 2016, Intel threw in the towel. Intel sold a 51% stake in McAfee to private equity firm TPG. This deal valued the company at $4.2 billion, meaning that McAfee had lost roughly 45% of its value. TPG quickly changed the name of the business from Intel Security back to McAfee, and focused on making the business as lean as possible. TPG conducted large layoffs, closed offices, and focused on high-growth consumer products. They also took out massive loans, and by 2017, TPG had taken out almost $5 billion worth of loans against McAfee. This money was paid directly to Intel and TPG instead of being used to improve the core business. Instead of improving McAfee's core product, Intel and TPG wanted to extract as much value as possible from the company. Meanwhile, consumers continued to rally against McAfee. They complained that the antivirus was nearly impossible to remove from devices, and critics argued that other products were better at protecting PCs. But McAfee's corporate owners didn't care. McAfee conducted another IPO in late 2020, valuing the company at $8.6 billion. But they still had almost $5 billion of debt, and Intel and TPG retained 80% of the voting power. As the stock plummeted, McAfee sold its enterprise division to pay down debt and focus on the higher margin consumer business. As McAfee struggled in the public markets, another buyer stepped in. In late 2021, McAfee was purchased by private equity firms Advent International and Permia for over $14 billion, with over 70% of that figure being debt. McAfee had been stripped down into exactly what private equity wanted: a predictable, high-margin consumer subscription business. But those profits depended on customers continuing to renew. And as customers grew sick of McAfee's software, they began to fight back. One of McAfee's most controversial features is its negative option renewal system. This means that unless the customer actively cancels, the subscription automatically renews. Under McAfee's current terms, subscriptions are renewed annually, often at higher prices, and before the user's current subscription expires. One disclosed offer charged $39.99 for the introductory term and approximately $110 at renewal. That's a price increase of roughly 175%. McAfee also ties some extra services and guarantees to continued auto-renew enrollment. Turning off auto-renewal can mean losing access to those benefits. McAfee's new private equity owners wanted to keep as many subscribers on the platform as possible to pay back the billions of dollars of loans taken out against the company, and they were willing to do anything to boost their numbers. Many customers were acquired through cheap promotional offers, a free trial, or software pre-installed on their PCs. Then, that software would auto-renew at a much higher price. McAfee's shady subscription practices have gotten them in major legal trouble. In 2016, the company reached a class action settlement valued at up to $80 million. The case involved allegations that McAfee automatically renewed subscriptions at higher prices, used misleading comparison or reference prices, and charged existing customers more than certain new customers. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority charged McAfee with similar violations in 2021. Then, in 2026, Indian regulators claimed that McAfee deceived users by offering two options to canceling customers. Customers deciding whether to renew were presented with two choices: renew now or accept risk. There was no equally neutral option such as do not renew, continue without McAfee, or decide later. The phrase accept risk implied that declining McAfee automatically placed the user in danger. Regulators determined that McAfee could not guarantee a customer would face cybersecurity threats simply because they didn't renew. McAfee was essentially scaring its users into locking in another renewal cycle. But even these tactics can't hide one of McAfee's biggest weaknesses. McAfee's traditional antivirus pitch is under pressure because basic computer security is now built into major operating systems. Windows 11 includes Microsoft Defender Antivirus at no additional cost. macOS includes XProtect, and multiple hardware and software level security protections. This fundamentally changes McAfee's value proposition. In the late 90s and 2000s, PCs often didn't include any major forms of antivirus protection. But in 2026, using McAfee is often seen as redundant with the level of security offered on modern PCs. The product that built McAfee's brand is being commoditized. But the company still needs customers to justify annual premiums large enough to support its private equity debt structure. McAfee is now attempting to move beyond traditional antivirus. The company now says it's focused on identity protection, VPN services, and deepfake detection. But with McAfee's reputation destroyed from decades of shady subscriptions, it's hard to believe anyone would want to sign up for these services. McAfee isn't dead yet, but the antivirus product that made it famous is slowly becoming obsolete. What remains is a heavily leveraged subscription company trying to convince customers that it can protect far more than their computers. Whether McAfee survives will depend on whether people trust it to protect their digital lives, or continue to see it as annoying software they never asked for. But McAfee isn't the only iconic tech brand that went from dominating its industry to becoming practically irrelevant. GoPro was once worth $11 billion, before a series of disastrous decisions destroyed almost everything. To see GoPro's spectacular collapse, click the video on screen.